We often chase relationships with others before building one with ourselves. The relationship with ourselves is one that's often so undermined. We often forget because we prioritize our relationship with others. Hey guys, my name's Anthony. I'm here with David Herring and Josh Yee. We're here with It's the Good Life, your practical guide to adulting. And today we'll be talking about a really interesting topic. We're kicking off a first of 5 series on relationships. And this is definitely a topic that we have been wanting to talk about for a while, right? But it is one of those that I think we were trying to save to the end because there's just so much density, so much impactfulness, so much stories. And I see David smiling over there because he cannot wait to get into this. But some of the topics that we'll be covering today, just to give you a little bird's eye view, is self-talk, right? Like, how are we talking to ourselves? We want to talk a little bit about confidence. We want to talk about like consumption. Maybe a little touchier subject of addictions, how that relates to our relationship with ourselves, what we watch, things that we consume, and ultimately how we will land on this topic of singleness and how we embrace that. And so kind of diving right in, I think the question that, the opening thought that I have for you guys is like, we spend years learning how to love others, right? But very few of us kind of learn how to love ourselves, I will say. And so how have you found that relationship with yourself to be true? Or is it true? In what ways how do you describe maybe your relationship with yourself currently? Maybe just to open up with that.
That's good. I'll kick it off. So the question was the significance and how do you love yourself? I think in a big summary, the best way that I can put it is you prioritizing your needs and being able to make sure that you can do whatever it takes to have them met in the most qualitative way that you can. And so a lot of the times, self-love and just being able to love myself, it's a difficult journey, as anything is. But I find that being able to set time aside and focus on getting the rest that I need, making sure that I have enough time to study, whether that's in academia or work, and really setting aside everything that will help me do the best that I can in whatever it is that I'm trying to achieve or do. But I think currently right now, I love everything that I have, and it's not perfect, but I can appreciate that because this journey looks so rigid, that is the biggest part of accepting what love has to offer, and it's that grace. So I have just so much gratitude and thanks to the people, but most important to Christ overall.
What are your thoughts?
Oh man, I already have a word.
Drop it down.
I missed the last 2 episodes, but here we go.
Dude. Welcome back, Josh.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys know, but he's disappearance all of a sudden. You have to explain yourself, I feel like.
Let's give some context. I think I've said this before, and I'll bounce off you in a second, David, is I'm not forgetting there's a pin in it. But yeah, I'm in nursing school, and I'm in... God, yeah, of course. Nah. I don't miss the sarcasm. I'm just kidding. But... yeah, it's been really energy consuming, and I think that it's kind of in light of this conversation, like I've really learned to value self-care and self-love, and I realized, like, you know, as much as I love doing this podcast, like I really needed to step away for the last time that we recorded, just because I just didn't feel like if I came into that space I would be able to really offer my best self. And so that was just a moment that I advocated for myself, pursued self-love, and said, okay, I need this time. And so it was very much needed, and it was very well spent. So I'm feeling really happy to be back and doing this with a full heart, and not a full mind, but you know, we do what we can.
No, we love having you here, Josh.
Yeah, thank you. I love being here. I think it was sad for me to not be here, but it was very needed. So this is actually a very interesting. I don't know. I think we brought it up for a reason, but I had like one of those Joseph vision dreams, like maybe 2 weeks ago about this, and it was really interesting because sort of the context of it was, I was in school. I had worked like 4 12-hour shifts back to back, and all of them were really hard. And so like coming out of that, I was just not really caring for myself, kind of in light of the 4 shifts that I worked. And I felt so deprived of love that I could give to other people, let alone myself. And it was really interesting because I had a dream. I think it was actually the night before we were going to record, and I think that was sort of what prompted my decision.
We're on the phone for a while.
Yeah. And I had this dream about it was really interesting. It was set in the time of Jesus and his ministry, and Jesus was it was like a Bible story was playing out in front of me, and Jesus was talking to a crowd of people, and I just remembered that John was there, and I was sort of like in the perspective of John, the beloved, and Jesus was talking about self-love and grace for yourself and the love that God has for you. And there was this moment when Jesus looked at John and said, John, why can't you love yourself as much as you love me? Like John was proclaiming his love for Jesus, and Jesus sort of prompted that moment of, if you can love me so much, why are you neglecting the love for yourself? And I remember like in my dream and then in real life, I was just sobbing because I was like, that is a reality that I think I was missing, was that I can proclaim my love for Jesus so much, but then what love am I having for myself too in that space? And I think it's like also, and to your point, David, this is what I was extending, is like by loving Jesus, an extension of that is he loves us, therefore we should also love ourselves.
Right.
There's a lot of interesting ideas you touched on there. I think the angle that I want to preface this with is the idea of how does our relationship with ourself pertain to a dating relationship? And that's, I think, the kind of important angle that I love that you kind of like almost pittered on, because I think the topic of this podcast will maybe be becoming whole, like why your relationship with yourself shapes how you love others. And I think a big part of what you also touched on is this idea of like, and I'm almost going to phrase it as a question back to you guys, is how does our relationship with ourself impact our relationship with others? And that's ultimately the question I want to turn to and have you guys answer maybe.
Sure. We've actually discussed it before in the past of other episodes. We've talked about pouring from an empty cup.
I think more so attack it at the angle of a dating relationship.
Gotcha.
That's where we're really hitting on with these 5 episodes.
Right. Okay.
Why is it important for your relationship to be good with yourself?
Yeah.
Before you're entering, or maybe as you're entering into a relationship.
Okay.
That you're considering not platonic,
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
The angle that I was saying is what we've talked about in previous episodes is pouring from an empty cup. If you yourself are not being able to take care of yourself as a person, then you can't give to others. So my point that I'm trying to make is when you're trying to take care of yourself and self-love and prioritize your needs in the best quality way that you're trying to meet them, and if you cannot and do that for yourself, then you cannot do that in your dating relationships. You cannot do that for the people that you have as far as your options or the list of people that you're trying to date or people that you have in your DMs or whoever's sliding or whatever. But my point is no, and that's
where's this coming from?
I'm so sorry.
Am I learning about this? Right
no,
now?
Absolutely not. No, not in the flesh. This is in no particular sense of my life.
And tell them to say that.
But
that was unscripted.
Yeah,
unscripted.
I mean, this is all unscripted, guys.
I know.
Come on.
That was the sarcasm.
But what and then so that's in a very numerous people approach.
I'm tracking.
But what I'm trying to say is, even if you're focused more in a traditional sense of, okay, there's one person in my life that I want to give everything to, the same thing applies. You cannot give anything to that person if you do not love and take care of yourself first, because you have no love to give. And it's difficult to navigate that.
Okay.
But whether you are talking to 10 people or you're talking to one, the point is, in your dating relationships, once again, if you do not take care and love yourself, then you cannot truly even give love to others because you do not have something yet.
No, you go first.
And that looks different for everyone.
I think
But, yeah.
to summarize,
Yeah, I was gonna
as
do that
we
too.
kind of concise what our thoughts are here, is that how we love others is a reflection of how we love ourselves. I think that's the idea,
good.
like the deeper under of like we can only. I'm sure you guys heard this. We can only love others as much as we love ourselves. And there's this as we go into like touch on the topic of maybe like self-talk and like the importance of self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think it's not hard to make that connection over when you see someone that is maybe mean towards you or says something hurtful.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times the way I receive that is I don't take that personally, but I take it more of that understanding of like why isn't that person able to love themselves better?
Yeah.
Because I think the way they reflect, the way they choose the words they say is a reflection of how they talk to them. This is their self-talk, right? And so, but you had a thought, Josh. I want to pin it over to you.
No, it was just sort of a same summarization. But I do think that it depends on the type of person, because people pleasers can often love more than they can love themselves. They can love from an empty cup. We can convince ourselves that, oh, I have way more to give than you actually have to give. Right. And so I don't think it's necessarily the equation of A plus B equals C. But I think that it's the self-talk, it's the self-awareness, it's the intentional choice to love yourself and fill your cup first, in your words, before loving others, that actually, I think, produces a more healthy relationship. My dad and I have often talked about this, and I think the concept that I'm sure you guys have heard of like dependence and independence, right? But my dad and I have talked about this idea of interdependence, where dependence is like in order to feel loved and to love, we need to depend on each other.
Is it the same as like codependence?
Yes.
Okay.
Codependence is an extension of dependence.
Dependence.
Right?
Okay.
It's the, I guess, like sub-level.
Gotcha.
A more depending version of just dependence. And then independence is like we're two separate people, and we don't really want it.
Yeah.
Like we're just there's a hard line between you and me. Interdependent is like we're both separate people, but we're making a choice to exist together and like participate in this thing called life together. But yeah, that's just kind of an extension.
Yeah, I mean, I think that relates though to, I think when we talk about that as relationship with others, or more so, I think those views are thrown out like in more like romantic relationships of like we're codependent or like
I mean, you can have codependent friendships.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like you always have to be around, people to feel like you're functioning.
Right.
But I mean, how would you say? Do you think the way we talk to ourselves or our relationship with ourselves has an effect on how we view like needing to be codependent with someone else? Like, do you think there's a relationship there for both of you guys, or do you feel like those are separate ideas?
Say that one more time.
Do you think there's a relationship between you having a certain self-talk with yourself and then you going into a relationship where you're either codependent or whatever?
I know exactly right. And this may be a good transition to start talking about self-talk, right? And I think that the way that we encourage, like the relationship that we have with ourselves, I think is a reflection of the way that we relate to others, right? And so I think that this is often talked about in faith, right? Where it's like, it's sort of the secret place, right?
Yes.
Where you are I call it, I don't know if there's, oh my gosh. Yeah. It's sort of like I like to think about it like the inner Josh. Like each one of us has sort of an inner little version of ourselves that's vulnerable and real, right? And the relationship that we have with that inner version of ourselves can often play a big part in the way that we relate to other people, right? So like, for example, my mom verbalizes this sort of like the inner child, right? How do we take care of our inner child, right? And so it's like, if you are an individual who maybe experienced something really difficult in the past, maybe your relationship with that inner child is really strained. Maybe it's difficult to engage with that inner child. Therefore, what happens is when you actually engage with other relationships, it's dysfunctional because you don't have the tools, you don't have the example of the relationship you have with yourself to better exist in relationship with other people.
Yeah.
Right. But then, you think about if that inner child is cared for, is loved, right? Then it's probably not as difficult to love on other people because you're already doing that and exemplifying that with your inner self, with your inner child, with that inner vulnerable version of yourself.
Right.
Um,
You have thoughts on this, David?
so self-talk is that conversation with yourself.
Absolutely. I think it means everything, and I definitely think there's a correlation, a connection, for sure. The thought that I want to affirm is what Josh was saying about the inner child. I absolutely love that. And that comes from, your mother was talking about that with you. But I think that is a really big idea that maybe we as adults, or starting to go through this process of adulting, need to really accept, is that all of us have this inner child. Whether you believe in thought that it has died, or it's been stranded, or you have been left alone and lost, it's estranged, whatever that looks like, there is still an inner child in there, and you have to accept the fact that if it's estranged, it's estranged, but you can get it back to the connection that it needs. If it's lost, but you can get it to the found, secure destination that it needs. If it's hurt and broken, you can get it the healing and the love that it deserves. And that's what we, as adults, I think, are trying to foster every single day in relationships, especially when we talk about dating. When I think about a person that would take care of me as far as a dating relationship, if I were to ever pursue someone in a relationship, I would think that this person most certainly would have to be able to provide a sense of care and qualitative needs and support of those needs to take care of my inner child. Like that honestly is probably like a really high standard for me. And it's a quality that I want and I desire deep down, because I know that there's also a very tiny little girl inside of that woman that has been transformed and has seen so much of life. And I want to only be able to, as a man, take care of what this woman needs, but have also this inner child of this little boy in me recognize what that little girl has been through. And share in that experience.
Yeah. On that point, I have a question for Anthony from that. This conversation of sort of, it sounds like it's my talk meets your self-talk, right? It's like my inner child meets your inner child. What are experiences that you have had, or David too, where maybe you were in a friendship, maybe in potentially a dating sort of romantic relationship, where maybe you had a moment like that, where you met your vulnerable side met their vulnerable side?
I feel like, okay, so quick pin on I think the idea about like adult and child is so interesting, because the inner child is, in essence, I think when we talk about adulting, it's in the name. It's kind of like we're adults. So you're no longer children, right? That's the unsaid thing, like the underlying thing of you're not a child anymore. And because of that, I think the idea of like having a childlike faith comes to mind, and this biblical aspect of the importance of reminding yourself what it's like to be a child, to play like a child, to think like a child, to act like a child sometimes, God willing. But I think as it relates to a relationship setting, I can't help but think about the idea of the honeymoon phase, right? In any kind of dating relationship, which for you guys who don't know is this beginning part of a relationship that you just feel, I think it ranges anywhere from, like few weeks, few months, up till maybe like a year and a half, I think, from what I've seen, or some people maybe even longer. But the idea is this is like really high point in the relationship where everything is new, everything is childlike, I think, right? I'm going to push the argument at least. Because I think it's this point where you let your guard down a little bit. Like life is less serious. It's like we can come together and we could just like explore these new things about ourselves, kind of like almost like we're exploring Legos when we're young, right? And that's I think the beautiful connection between like being a child in a relationship of like just wanting to know, like ask why, like why this, why that. As a child, like I think I remember always being so curious about every single thing around me, like how does this feel? How does this touch? You're experiencing the world in a new way. I think in the same way you enter into a new relationship in the confines of the honeymoon phase where you're experiencing something new for the first time, right? I think that's kind of what I think about as it relates to like this children-like personality. But I think to your point, David, I think that idea of like being a child is important when you enter into like a relationship, because we all honestly come in with a lot of baggage, right? And I think that ends up coming into some of the relationships that we go into, right? Like it inevitably leads into that. I think another idea as we kind of drive forward this conversation, I know we've kind of dwelled on this self-talk a little bit for a while, but just kind of a final statistic I found that was really interesting was the average person has about 12,000 to 60,000 thoughts per day. All right. And
Wow.
I want to ask you guys, how many of those, what percentage of those thoughts do you think are negative?
It depends
Like
on the
give
day.
me a number. Give me a number.
What Josh said.
Depends on okay.
Depends on the day.
Like what about an average?
On average.
Yeah, just give it to me.
Do you have an average, Josh?
Just shout out a number. No one like
I mean,
You said are negative?
are negative.
I
Yeah,
would say,
it's
like,
not that deep.
most days probably like 20%.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, like a good chunk, but it's not something. It's
Solid.
not like overwhelming.
Okay. That's for you personally, or you think
That's for me.
okay.
That's for me personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it really depends. Like when I was like going through depression,
Yeah.
it was probably like 90%. Like
Wow.
you know, and that means a lot. It's like 90% of the self-talk is negative.
So
Yeah.
that would be 9 out of the 10 things you say to yourself are horrible,
Yeah.
like or
Oh,
negative.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Out of 100, right?
Out of 100. Just shout out random.
Realistically, probably like 35, 40%.
80%.
No.
No, that's the actual number. 80% of thoughts are negative.
Oh, but I'm telling you my negative percentage that
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I just asked you guys for like a random number, but
Yeah.
from the national.
Oh,
Yes,
that's the actual-
yes,
Got it.
yeah. So like National Science Foundation says 80% of thoughts are negative.
Wow.
That means what? 4 out of the 5 thoughts you have, right?
Yeah.
Like, how does that sit with you guys?
I was gonna say with you, Anthony.
Yeah.
What was your impression?
What do you think
Wait,
about
what
it?
was
I
your
was
impression?
pretty blown away, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that as an average, I don't think that's true for myself because I think part of like having a positive self-talk is something that I've done a lot of work on.
Yeah.
But I think part of me is not surprised, almost.
Right.
Because I think some of the points we touched on in the past of like social media, of like being surrounded by a negative, to my understanding, I think negative is the default. I think we don't have to work hard to be negative. I think it's almost something that comes intrinsic to who we are.
Right.
As a world that's like deteriorating and breaking down, not to be pessimistic, but I think it really takes work to override that with positive.
Right.
That's how I kind of view that statistic, but it's
Yeah.
mind-boggling.
I think you notice how the people who are more optimistic, who think more positively, they have more of it's more of like a quality and a skill when people are like, wow, you can see the positive in all things.
Absolutely.
Because it's
I love
a
that.
difficult thing, and perhaps we might be able to throw out an educated guess out here that maybe then on an average, people are a lot more pessimistic than optimistic.
I agree.
And maybe that just says something about society and world and where we're at today, as far as cultures and traditions have an effect and influence in our lives. But yeah, I think when it comes to positive self-talk, that is so critical to how basically your day will go at work, in academia, at school. When I'm playing even my video games, I talk to myself positively. I'm like, David,
Are you sure, David?
do this.
I think that's like a minority. Do you talking? You really?
Yeah, actually,
For real?
yeah, very,
What do you
very much
say?
so.
Like,
I'm okay. Say the
Can you
odds.
give me
Say the odds are
examples?
terrible.
I'm losing. I got this.
No, literally, that is actually
That's
so real.
Give me an
We're down to
example.
1 minute.
Okay.
Don't worry.
Are you guys familiar with the game Clash Royale?
Oh my
Dude, I
God.
love that game
Yes.
so much.
Okay.
But I play it on a very competitive level, like worlds, like higher.
All right, you
level.
got 2 minutes here, David.
Okay, so my point is, as an example, for example, if I'm locking in like a ranked match
Oh, I
and
can't
I'm
believe
top
we're talking
5K
about this.
in 30 million,
So I give him a 2-minute timer.
then you're getting sorry, oh gosh,
No,
almost
keep
slipped
it up.
that. You're getting your butt whooped,
Okay.
and so
I see your positive self-talk
yeah, no,
shining through right now.
I
see it
boundaries, and
shining
I'm like,
through.
okay, hold on.
I see it shining.
But
okay.
but basically the odds look like it's so much against you. Like for example,
Sure.
the matchup of the two decks you're playing.
Yeah.
mine is more difficult. It's more high skill to play against this guy who has like a beat down like golem deck or something. And so my point is when the odds look so against you, it's like you don't affirm negative thoughts and say, oh man, I'm gonna lose. Oh, I'm so trash.
Yeah.
Those are obviously realistic things that would happen, but why don't we repent and go against that flow? Why don't we say, no, I can do this?
Okay.
And that's the positive self-talk that people don't necessarily recognize, but that is the truth, is like, that is what sets you apart from a lot of other people, is when you can have that positive self-talk, or a self-talk that is distinctly separate from what the majority is. So, yeah, whether it's a simple like, I can keep going, or I've got this. Man, I messed up, but I'm going to make this better move next time. You know, things like that. Always calculating, always making the chance and taking the risk. But I think overall that positive self-talk, it matters so much.
Yeah, I mean, I think to redirect, I think like the importance of being able to pivot, to be self-aware, and then pivot in terms of like, okay, I noticed a negative thought. What can I do to change it into a positive one?
Yeah.
What's really interesting is like I think there's something to focus on about the power of negative thoughts,
Okay.
about the powers of negative self-talk. If you talk about it that way, there's this. I don't remember if it's like a phrase or something. I'd really love to see the statistics, but
Okay.
have you ever guys been like driving down the freeway or something like that, like during the rain especially, and you see like a pothole on the freeway, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's a huge pothole.
Yeah.
I think my dad told me that there's this statistic like about how many people, like, why do people blow out their tires in potholes? It's often because they're looking at the pothole. And there's something about when you look at the pothole that you actually start driving closer to the pothole. And I think that there's this notion of like negative self-talk where it's like you're playing a Clash Royale game, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose, I'm going to lose. What are the chances that you're probably going to lose more by you telling yourself that you're going to lose? Right? Versus like me going into an exam, if I tell myself I'm going to fail, there's a really good, better chance that I'm probably going to fail because I keep telling myself I'm not going to do well, I'm not going to do well.
Right.
Well, no surprise, I didn't do well. You know, like, versus pushing against the notion of, you know what, this is going to be a hard exam. This is a really hard opponent I'm going against.
Yeah.
There's still a chance that I'm going to make it through.
Yeah.
And I'm going to focus on that than focusing on the negative, which will likely, I'm using this word specifically for this, but like that reality might manifest more the more that you believe it's going to be. And it's like, I don't know, that's like placebo and stuff like that. But
Yeah, so I think before we turn into the topic and conversation about maybe more consumption and things like that,
totally.
I think the final point I think I want to touch on is this idea that you touched on of like self-confidence, of like self-confidence. I think, to put it plainly, is like, it's just how you can become, it's like learning to become secure in who you are, because there's only like, everyone has like spurts of feeling high, feeling great about themselves, but then it's like that's also met with lows of like negativity. And so how do you guys stay, or if you guys do, in terms of like self-confidence, how do you guys maintain your ability to feel secure about your, and I'm touching on like insecurity here, which is a little bit of a sensitive topic, I'm prodding at it, but how do you guys typically like go through that and like exhibit a little bit of self-confidence?
How do you do that, Anthony? I would say I learned that from you. So I think it'd be better if you talked about that first.
I think I'm still learning.
Of course. But what's your process?
I think it's a process of proving to yourself that you can do what you say you will do. I think in a nutshell.
That's very well said for your process.
I think that's my one-liner punchline right there. Like I think.
Yeah.
But I think honestly, to flesh that out though, like I think the importance of being able to be a man of your word or a woman of your word, whatever it is. Like, I think oftentimes we lack the confidence because we fail to prove to ourselves that we'll actually do what we say we will do.
Wow.
And I think part of my self-confidence comes from exactly that. It's being able to say that I'm going to commit myself to this bodybuilding competition by the end of September of 2024, and I'm going to hop on stage September 28th, right?
Yeah.
And that's going to happen. I'm going to do my best. And I have no control over that situation whatsoever of who's going to be up there, who I'm going to be up against competition-wise. But I have every single control over every single day that leads up to that competition. And I can prove to myself that I'm going to get on stage. And if I do, I think that for me is a token into this, I guess, jar, if you will, of self-confidence, of saying that I said I will do it and I will do it. And therefore there's a coin in that jar. And eventually I think the more you do that, the more coins you have in that jar, man, you can buy something pretty great with that, with all that change that adds up. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's I think for me, that's the confidence that I build up in everything that we do. We say we're going to start a podcast. Let's do it. Right. We're saying we're going to record every week. Let's drop episodes every Wednesday. Right. Like we have the past 16 weeks, 17 weeks. Yeah. Right. And I'm saying that as a fact.
Yes.
And we will continue to do that, you know.
We will.
And so that's my 2 cents.
Wow. I was more like $1,000 right there.
That was really good.
Dropping coins into the jar.
I guess you could say $1,000 and 2 cents. Sorry, that was terrible. I'm just
You're a little
My
tweaky
confidence
today.
in your humor
See,
is going
the
down by
confidence
the
to make
minute.
that joke.
Yeah.
You know, that says a lot, I think.
Oh man.
Oh.
I want to hear your guys' 2 or maybe even 3 cents.
Do you
want
want to go for it, Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you say you learn. I'm curious what did you pick up from that? Is it exactly what I said? Do you resonate with that?
Well, you know, it's
different?
interesting because I think in this season, especially in like nursing school, and I think a lot of this came from me watching you in nursing school and like seeing the way that you went about it, and when you experienced barriers, how you responded to that with confidence, right?
Like modeling it.
Yeah, you did for sure. And I definitely want to say that for a fact because that's been really huge for me personally.
Thanks.
But I think like the word confidence, it is rooted in confiding, right? Like resting in, right? So it's like when we have self-confidence, we're resting in the skill sets and the actions that we will follow through on. And I think in nursing school, I often find myself surrounded with people, including myself, who are not self-confident, right? Going into an exam where they are fearful about what's going to happen, and they're not self-confident because they're fearful about what if I can't show up for myself how I want to show up for myself.
Oh.
Right?
Yeah.
And that fear is what produces a lack of self-confidence, right? But looking at, you know, the way that you go about your life, I think it's exactly what you said, where it's like you say you're going to do something and you're going to follow up with it. I think that self-confidence is rooted in the expectations that we have for ourselves, right? Because if we have an expectation to do gold standard thing that is unrealistic for anybody to do, and that I will likely be unable to do, then it doesn't matter how hard I'm going to try. I'm not going to be able to satisfy that standard.
That's good.
And my self-confidence is not going to be there.
Yeah.
But going into an exam and I say, you know what, Josh, the success today will be that you showed up, you studied the best that you can, and you're going to do the best that you can, no matter the exam result. My self-confidence is going to be there because I will be able to satisfy that expectation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that was something that you modeled to me, is setting standards for yourself that are A, realistic, and B, that are fair, and C, that are timely, you know, that within what you're capable of doing. So the bodybuilding show, you had like a year or 9 months to prepare for that.
Right.
It's not like you just said, 3 months, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you would have been disappointed. Your self-confidence would have gone down because it was not realistic. It's not realistic for you. I mean, maybe it's realistic for you.
I mean, 3 months is a pretty short time. Yeah. I see. I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think that self-confidence is something that is, it's a huge tool, and
I mean, that touches on like this quick thing of like habit, or like, you know, being able to build this idea of like goal setting, right? It's like I think the unconventional advice of like this idea of like go big or go home.
Yeah.
I think I would disagree with that when it comes to goal setting. I think if you can't achieve it, go smaller.
Yeah.
And like break it down into even smaller. If you can't go out for a run, try to put on your shoes first.
Yeah.
You know,
totally.
how are you gonna go on a run? You can't you can't run before you walk. You can't walk before you crawl.
Yeah.
Right. So this is like progressive steps in that.
Word.
That's good.
Turning
Closing. I'll close it off.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say self-confidence comes from an accountability of your uncomfortability, your mistakes, and the suffering that you endure. Okay. So
Flesh that out.
if you take complete responsibility and total accountability, full ownership basically of everything that you go through, think of every negative thing, you can build a sense of confidence, because what you're recognizing is your insecurities, what you're sensitive to, that you do not want to confront. And when you do that, you can execute change. And I think the difficulty then is having the willpower to execute that change. And so we talk about
That's rough.
the things that we're doing, like Anthony's having these spread out, well thought examples of, like, if you can't go on a run, well, have you even put on your shoes? Like, really not even just pushing the limits of these specific things, but really allowing your body and your mind and your soul to really feel the test of what it means to actually be the person that you want to be expected of.
Yeah.
That you have that gold standard, what that looks like. But transitioning back over to you.
Absolutely. I think as we kind of go into maybe our last kind of the second half of this episode, I think a big transition into our ability to be self-confident is largely due to the things that we consume, right? And this is the pivot I think I want to make with you guys, is that I think I want to take a soft landing here, that what we consume, what we consume daily, we'll say that, kind of shapes our mind, our desires, and our faith, right? And whether you agree with that or not, I think something to think about is, like, what do you eat? What do you watch? What are you looking at on your phone? And how, maybe pay attention to how those things, like, affect who you are, right? And maybe how that affects your self-talk. And so I think those are some important things to think about too. What comes to mind when you guys think about this topic of, like, consumption? Are you guys mindful of what you guys put into your body in terms of, like, from a diet standpoint, from a consumption, like, of social media, of things you watch, things you hear, people you surround yourself with, I will even argue, which we will touch more on in next episode of our relationship with others. But I just want to open up that can of worms.
Yeah, absolutely. Simply put, I think every space, whether that's friendships, whether that's a specific thing I'm studying for, whether that's sports, volleyball that I'm training, beach volleyball, indoor, I recognize that whatever it is I'm preparing for and whatever I have feeded into me or fed to me through social media, through my phone and any type of networking, whether that be also in person and through all those avenues that I just mentioned, I mean, that affects wholeheartedly and heavily your life as a big part. And so I would think that when we are talking about self-talk, having all of those things feed into you, you have to wrestle with yourself in what those things give you, whether that is a confidence or the negativity of you losing a game or missing your serve or not being able to hit that, great test score that you wanted, or whether that's at work, not performing your best in front of your boss or manager, whatever that looks like. And then being able to, once again, I think the biggest pivot and strongest encouragement I want to give is how can we then execute change to become better? And so pivoting over to that self-confidence of, okay, I'm going through these mistakes and these difficult things. How can I choose to be more in that self-betterment, that personal development that ups me rather than keeps me down? So, yeah, what do you think about that, Josh?
Well, it's sort of this notion I'm hearing is, like, what you can you could take from a physical and a figurative sense, right? Where it's like, and I learned all this from this guy.
Yeah, go into it. Go into
I'm like
it.
macros, But no, what like when you eat a candy bar versus like a chicken and rice and veggies, right? It's like one might be more appealing to the other. Like watching Instagram and doom scrolling for 5 hours or reading scripture for 5 hours.
Oh, wow.
One of them might seem more appealing because it grabs your attention and it tastes good, right? Or at least on the surface it tastes good. But one really gives you more nutritional value, even on the surface it doesn't taste as good.
Yeah.
Right. Or at least on the initial, and until you start building the habits, right? And so it's like, to your point, right? It's like it doesn't even matter if it's something, it actually matters. It matters so much, everything that you consume.
Yep.
Even if it's for 5 minutes. I'd imagine there's got to be a statistic out there about how much time it takes on social media to change the way that your dopamine sensors work, right? Like, how much of a hit do you need to suddenly rewire the way that you get a hit or something like that when it comes to dopamine anyways, right?
That's good.
And so, yeah, to your point, I think it's so important to be sensitive to what we consume.
Yeah.
And even more as an extension of that, to be intentional about what we consume. Yeah. Because your body will absorb it.
That's right.
Whether you want it to or not. And as a result, it will affect the way you grow.
Yeah.
Or not grow.
Yeah.
You know, like it'll either stunt it, cause you to like worsen or improve. Like, but you can't just expect that, if like Instagram's not going to harm me. Like, it's just social media.
Yeah. Just scrolling for hours endlessly and not thinking about how that affects you.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so it's like, it's so important to be sensitive of that. It's like, what I put in my body, what I visualize and see will affect me.
Yeah.
So if I know it's going to affect me, what am I going to do about that?
Right.
You know?
I think that's the $1 million question right there. Yeah, I think if you're thinking like, if you're listening to this thinking like, oh, that's not me, you know, I don't get affected by that. Well, I think an interesting statistic here is that the average person spends 4.5 hours a day on their phone.
Point proven.
Yeah.
Right? A day. Like, I'm talking screen time.
Yeah.
So if you multiply that by, say, 7, that's almost 30 hours a week. If you were off your phone for 30 hours a week, right? What could you be doing with that time? Holy cow, 30 hours back into your life. That's almost that's more than a whole day.
Yeah.
So you're telling me we're spending a whole day on our phones a week. Like,
but
that's crazy.
Man.
That's great. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I have a word.
Yeah.
I have a word.
Go for it, and then we'll transition.
Why do we use social media? It's in the name.
Yeah.
Social media.
Yeah.
The goal is to be social, right? But often I feel like, in my experience, I'm doing anything but being social. And like maybe in the beginning when social media was being made, like maybe there was a good intention to build connection, right? To build connection, to be like, oh, what are other people doing in my life, right?
Yeah, right.
But the reality is I think social media is more of a tool to not be social now.
Wow,
like
that's actually really deep.
It's a radical idea.
It's ironic.
It's ironic.
Yeah.
It's so ironic, right?
It's like instead of talking to people around us,
it's like how often do you, like, I don't know about you guys, but there was a moment that I had, maybe I think it was last June. I was going to Seattle for a family venture, and I was sitting at the terminal, and I brought a book to read, and while we were waiting, with my dad notoriously loves to get there early. Not to call you out, Dad, if you're listening. Love you. But we were there maybe an hour or two before the flight took off.
Yeah.
And I was reading my book, and you can look and pervade across the entire terminal. I don't think there was one person not on a phone. Right? Because instead of being social, there's something more comfortable about just being on your phones looking like this.
Yeah.
Right? And even reading the book, I was like, I just want to talk to somebody. I was like, Dad, let's talk. Tell me about this. And he's like, put down his phone and talk. And it's like, all that to say, like, the irony, in social media is that it's meant to bring connection, but it ironically is severing connection.
Yeah.
I
think going to that idea, as we kind of round out here, I think so the idea of like being a child too, I think plays into this. Because I think in some ways, like, our phone acts as this safe object. The same way like a bib or like a toy acts for like a baby.
Dang,
right?
Dude.
I think it in some ways soothes us because this idea of like social interaction is almost frightening. In some ways, it's anxiety inducing. Like, I'm sure you've heard of social anxiety, of things that like we are almost more uncomfortable talking to people than we are not talking to people, right? And that's kind of I think a scary statement to say too, because we're social beings. We're social beings. We're meant to be in community, in groups with others. I think to keep, I think, the content also appropriate for kids, or children as well. I think the topic that I did also wanted to go to, but probably in a later season we'll go into a little bit deeper, is the idea of like adult content and how that affects as a large thing into the things that we consume nowadays, because I think that needs to be addressed. And the way it rewires our brain. But just for the sake of this, I think the series and our focus on relationships, I really want to start and finish kind of on this conversation about singleness as we kind of land here.
For sure.
Yeah.
Just an opener question here. How do you think, I'm sure you guys have been single at some point in your life. Unless you guys
I haven't been single since I was in 3rd grade.
unless no, but like some people chronically date, you know, it's true.
For sure.
But like I think I want to pose a question to you. I guess just to open up, how do you embrace singleness? Like I think that there's a negative connotation of singleness sucks. Like singleness is this season where like you don't want to be in, like it hurts, it's painful. Like you see other friends maybe dating around you and it's like, gosh, like why am I not that happy? Or like why, or I guess quote unquote happy, right? Or happier as they seem. Or why, you know, just to open that up. Because, you know, this idea like singleness isn't like a punishment from God, right? I think the hint I want to make is like, it's a purposeful season for preparation. But what do you guys make of that?
Go for it, Josh.
So much here. I'm just
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I think I mentioned this prior to the episode, but the first character in scripture I think of is Paul. And like Paul talks about singleness so evidently throughout his letters to the various different churches. But I think the core of the main theme that he really hints on is your relationship with the Lord is the most important. It's the most important out of any other relationship that you're possibly going to have. And so if a relationship will elevate that relationship with the Lord, then do it. But if that relationship will hinder your relationship with God or your ability to do what God is calling you to do, then you're not in the space for a relationship. Wow. And I think that sort of theme really radically transformed my view of singleness, not as a season of, oh my gosh, I should be in a relationship, I have to be in a relationship, but more so of that me being single is the exact place relationally that God is putting me to do what he wants me to do.
It's meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to be. God is putting me in this position for a reason.
Love that.
If I'm meant to be in a relationship, then let it elevate my vocation to do God's will. If it's not, then it's not meant to be. And I also think that, like, if you are someone who's single about thinking about dating, I think that that's a very important part of your process. Am I doing more of what God is calling me to in a relationship or single? And that's a really hard thing to swallow, right?
Yeah, preaching to the choir here.
No, because if you find seriously, because I've been circumstances before where that was not the case. Where by being with the person, I was actually deviating from my faith.
Holy smokes!
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like that is a clear moment where it's like, no, singleness is the answer. You know,
wow.
And it's like that.
You don't hear that often.
No, exactly. No, exactly. And that's what Paul says. It's like singleness is the answer in that.
Right.
But I'm not trying to say that that's for every person. I'm not even trying to say
the answer.
It's not the answer, but it is a answer.
Absolutely.
That I think that we don't like to say it is. You know.
Yeah. Hate to say it or hate to hear it, love to say it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that means, but I think I'm gonna process that.
You process on the way back home.
I'm thinking about it right now. Like, what does it mean?
No,
thank you for sharing.
Easier said than done, pretty much.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Josh.
Yeah, dude.
I so encourage this idea of walking a life of Paul, where it is just solitude and finding this journey to be so difficult with oneself, but enduring that in relationship with honoring the Lord with everything that you've got, all your heart, all your mind, all your strength, everything that you have, to be just the most beneficial thing. So emphasis on it's a preparation season for you, and I think just preparing you to be properly equipped for the right person that in the same way is also doing the same thing in their life, so that when you guys meet together, I always make this analogy, if you guys are equally yoked coming from a biblical term, in worldly secular terms, I'd say equally yoked means more if you guys have both the same values and dreams, visions, etc. That you guys come together, but in a biblical sense, I'm focusing here. You guys are matched. You guys love the Lord. Values are matching. Everything of principles and goodness come together here. Prioritize Christ, and it's you guys rise together. And Christ is at the center, right?
Yeah.
But you guys are coming from both your own sides. And so I think that's going to look, once again, I always say this, going to be different for everyone. Because we're not the same person. There's not going to be a Josh Yee 20 years down the road exactly doing the same thing that you're doing today. You might have another Joshua Yee 20 years later, but not doing, you know, this.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, you guys touched on really great things.
But yeah, I think that's just where I would have it as a word to kind of end off there.
Yeah,
and if
for sure.
we want to go into prayer, how are we feeling?
Yeah, we're kind of coming down to our final 10
Okay.
here.
What are your thoughts on that, Anthony?
Well, I think you guys
Embracing
touched on some really great topics that I almost feel like I want to devote, or I think we maybe want to devote a part of maybe the next episode just to like
flesh out
finish
more.
addressing this, because you guys are bringing up some really great stuff. But just to give you a roadmap of like where this series is going, this next episode is going to be about our relationship with others. So this first one is relationship with ourselves, and then the second one's relationship with others. And we strategically planned for this third one, which is, if you think about it, in the middle of our series of 5, to be our relationship with God. Because I think God is at the center of everything, of all our relationships.
Oh, that could be a good one.
Right?
I already
and
know.
episode 4 is where we're really going to go into like what it looks like to date. Right? Whether in a godly or ungodly way.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into those questions, those beautiful conversations, which we will go in about 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, sorry, from today's episode. And then finally, for our finale, I'm actually going to keep that one a secret.
Whoa!
Give you guys something to look forward to.
Secret!
But definitely stick around till the end to see what we're going to be talking about, because you're not going to want to miss it. If you guys saw our episode 10 finale, we're going to be doing something similar with that.
I hope he doesn't shoot a popper and make
It won't be poppers. It won't be poppers.
Hopefully he knows how to use a popper this time.
I mean, sometimes I think the manufacturers need to make it a
That
little
was
easier.
probably
to-
the most terrifying part
I'm not gonna
of it.
lie, these poppers should come with instructions. Like they don't.
think-
It literally says twist.
They need to come with instructions that are
You need
easier
paper
to-
handheld manuals or
easier to
something?
read.
Wow.
You know, something like that requires like a tutorial.
Oh, okay.
Like that's.
You should watch with a QR code. Oh,
You know,
my gosh.
but anyways, bringing this back in as we round off here, this idea of singleness. Wow, you guys touched on so much good things. I think my thoughts, is more so, I think it connects back with self-awareness and this idea of like, I think oftentimes culture portrays singleness as, like I said, like there's something that we don't want to be. And culture almost idolizes relationships. And it's so interesting, David, as you touch on like some of these things that are almost precursors to what you think should be in a relationship. Whereas you think about and you look at culture and this idea of like flings and hookup culture, it's like they just bypass all of that.
Right.
Like we just skip this whole important part about creating a relationship that actually matters and this emotional connection that you're just skipping to the physical connection. Right? And I think something that I really thought about as I entered into my personal relationship in the past, as I go into just a quick experience here, I think after understanding that, one, because I've made the mistakes. To be transparent, I think there's things that I've done that I wish I didn't do. I think as is with life, but I think with this idea that I want to now the revolving idea or evolving idea is that I want to get to know her before I get to know her body. And I think there's a nuance with that because I think part of being, and I think maybe I'm getting ahead of myself because we'll dive into this in dating relationships episode 19. But I think when we do tend to get to know someone's body before we get to know them, we skip this whole step of getting to know this person on a cognitive level, on a like what they like to do, who are they on a fundamental level. That sometimes that physicalness, that physical attraction, that physical connection, or what you want to call it, can almost cloud our judgment in terms of being able to cognitively understand someone or to know someone. And so in a way that's irreversible. Like you can't just physically connect with someone and then go, and it's not going to be as easy for you to go back because I can tell you from experience that clouds your judgment. And it's going to take some time for you to rewrite that because you've all of a sudden given yourself permission to enter into those boundaries that you've crossed, right? I think talking about a little bit of singleness, though, I think in my own season of singleness currently, wow, we didn't even go around and talk about like our current relationship status. But I think with where I'm currently at in life now, maybe we'll dive into that next episode. But I think with almost this idea that I'm taking in of embracing singleness, and this idea that I want to put across, I think everyone that's listening, is this idea of like dating God.
Yeah.
And or slash dating yourself, right? And this idea of like going on self dates, of learning more about yourself, because at the end of the day, the more you know yourself, the more that you can actually get to know other people. And I think that's what I found, is that like the more happy that I can be with myself, the more happy that I can be in a relationship setting. Because relationship isn't two halves coming together, it's two wholes. You know, and at the end of the day, I think finding a beautiful relationship is in fact creating that whole of yourself, of figuring out what that looks like, of knowing that, you know, that's something that you're working on, and you make up half of that relationship just as much as that other person does. And that took work far beyond before you guys started dating, right? Any closing thoughts for you guys as we kind of round off here?
Well, I think lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Self-talk's really important. Treat yourself well, because you deserve it. And I think that a lot of times in this culture, we don't think that we deserve positive self-talk. And that's why we negative self-talk. That's because we're like, we don't deserve A, B, C, X, Y, Z, right? But it's kind of like Anthony said, you got to start slow. You got to start small with positive self-talk. Even if it's I'm glad I woke up today.
Yeah.
You know? I'm glad that I was able to fall asleep today. I'm glad that I slept. You know, like
glad I'm alive.
I'm glad I'm alive.
Yeah,
I'm
that one,
glad
yes.
that I am where I am. You know, I'm glad that I didn't get into. I'm glad that I got here safely.
Yes.
You know, and it's like it doesn't take all. It doesn't. It. I think the false news is that it takes a lot of effort to be positive about yourself and to yourself. And so I think I'm just going to push against that narrative a bit and say it is just as easy, if not easier, if you start doing it to be more positive with yourself than it is to be negative.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Starting with you, David, one word of advice for the single men out there, single woman, and then we'll come around this way.
It is worth every penny in the world to save your purity for the person that you're willing to spend the rest of your life with. Yeah.
Ooh, I'm biting my nails for that one. Ooh, gosh.
I think that when you save that for the right person and you are actually experiencing it full, you know, it is really one of the most beautiful things that you could ever experience. I think that you can experience a joy and a depth with somebody that you could not even fathom you could experience with somebody. Even within the confines of purely cognitive.
Yeah.
So
That's beautiful. Yeah, I think that singleness is such a gift, if you will. I think it's such a misconstrued idea that is often more construed as a mishap rather than an opportunity. And I think it should really be, utilized in the greatest of ways, because from experience, I can tell you that dating is this time and very precious time in your life that you will never get back if you get married. Let me say that again, you'll never be single again, right? Given the fact, right, that you're in this happy marriage, obviously. But
I have some words for that, but that might be for next time.
yeah, we'll go into it.
Yeah.
But to kind of like summarize here and like give closing thoughts.
For sure.
The relationship, I think, with ourselves, I think some key takeaways are that relationship with ourselves is kind of the foundation that we have with our relationship with others. We also talked about the importance of positive self-talk and God-centered confidence, and how that kind of fuels our own ability to be self-confident in who we are, putting coins in that jar, if you will. It's also important to be mindful of what we consume, because that pours into our soul. And in doing so, we're able to utilize singleness to its full capacity. Because this is a really sacred preparation time, you know? And I think finally I think something that people need to hear is just don't rush. Don't rush into something it's better to not be in a relationship at all than to be in the wrong one.
Ooh.
I think maybe that's my one word of advice. But as we round off here,
Can I pray?
absolutely.
Okay. With the airplane in the background that you can probably hear. Gracious God, we just are so thankful for you this morning, just for the beautiful weather and just the sunshine that we are just feeling, literally and figuratively. We just thank you for just the ability to converse about relationships, about the self, about loving ourselves. Lord, you love us so much, and it's just such an opportunity to even attempt to love us as much as you love ourselves as much as you love us, Lord. I just thank you for these two wonderful, godly men that I just have the ability to converse with in this space. And I just pray for anyone who's out there, single, not single, who maybe some of these thoughts dwell with them, Lord. I just pray that you would just move their hearts and challenge them in ways that only you can, and just continue to just provide words for them through us. And just in this series, just that we can talk about good, hard things, just for your glory, Lord, and just so that we can reflect in you through our relationships that we share, either platonic or romantic. Just all in your name, Lord. We just thank you for today, and just thank you for the ability to do this. Amen.
Amen. All right, that's going to be episode 16, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. That pretty much opens up our series on relationships. That's going to be 1 of 5. Next episode, look forward to us talking about our relationship with others. We'll also be diving into kind of like maybe where we're at in our relationship, and then kind of rounding off that conversation of singleness. But thank you guys so much for joining. Like and subscribe if you love to, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Guys, I gotta get that back. I'm just kidding.
That was great.
No.